Hi everyone.
Hey everyone, this is Vikas. So team, we are just waiting for a few more people to join us and we will start in a couple of minutes. So Aditya, are you there?
Yeah, because I'm here. I've just mailed everybody. Guys, who are already here, you might have received an email. It's to all the participants to join the bootcamp as we're going to start in a minute. So kindly ignore that email because you've already joined. And because I think we can start at around 10:30, 31.
Okay. So it's already 10:30. Maybe if you want to give a minute or so for others to join, I'm okay with that. As of
Yeah,
now,
sure.
we have 13 participants.
Yeah.
So I think people are joining in.
Yeah, people are joining in.
So are you able to see my screen, my slide deck, the first screen?
Yep. Also, guys, my name is Aditya. I'll be the moderator for the chat today. Everybody here, if you have any questions, you can either raise your hand, turn on your mic and ask the question, or put your question in the chat and I'll make sure that it is addressed. So we'll have the Q&A session as well, but everything related to what's going on, anything, any questions that you have, I'm here to help.
So team, this session is going to be of 1 hour. I'll take around 35 minutes to 40 minutes for this session to cover it up. And then in the end, we'll keep 15-20 minutes only for question answers, so that I can address most questions in that particular time. So Aditya, shall we start?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead.
Yep. So team, before we start, about myself, my name is Vikas Sharma and I'm accredited trainer for DevOps. I train on ITL for strategic leaders. I train on ITL for managing professionals. I'm safe program consultant. I train on leading safe agilist. I also train on ITL V3. In fact, I'm CM consultant. I train on CM and I train on Agile Scrum. I train on Prince 2 Agile, Six Sigma. And I have more than 18 years of experience in IT, predominantly worked in process consulting, implementation of processes, implementation of CM, DevOps, Agile Scrum. And I've trained more than 10,000 professionals in last 10 years. So I've been training since 10 years and I've been training into almost all areas. So I've covered almost 10,000 professionals. Now, for today's agenda, we are going to cover what is DevOps, DevOps goals, pillars of the DevOps, why DevOps, and what is the CI/CD pipeline. As I assume, most of you would be new to DevOps, and most of you might have already started working in DevOps, and few of you could be, I would say, could be tenured in DevOps, and you already know what DevOps is. So it's a kind of refresher for you what DevOps is. For the people who don't know what DevOps, we'll discuss what DevOps is. Now, when we talk about DevOps, let's look at the journey of DevOps.
Because, just one second. I think somebody else's mic is on. Sandor, if you can just turn off your mic, as in if you have a question, you can turn it on. Anybody who has joined in, please turn off your mics when Vikas is speaking. If you have a question, you can bring it up. And Arit, I think I hear Vikas perfectly. His voice is decent. Does anybody else have a problem with the volume of Vikas? You can just spam in the chat if you guys have any issues, let's say. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so Aditya, I'm not looking at the chat. In case if somebody has any issue, do let me know.
Yeah, sure. I think the volume is okay. Arit, you can just, I don't know, probably plug in your earphones or something.
Okay, so shall we proceed?
Sandor, can you just turn off your mic, as in mute it? You'll have an option on the screen. So, yeah, he's done it. All right, Vikas, go ahead.
Okay. So when we are talking about the DevOps evolution, so what is the journey of DevOps? Who started DevOps? So when we talk about DevOps, starting DevOps or launching DevOps or introduction of DevOps, the entire credit goes to Patrick DeBoy. So Patrick DeBoy started assessing the IT value chain, and he started doing that in 2007. So in 2007, there were a lot of issues as in the development and the operation teams. They never used to collaborate well. There were a lot of silos. There were a lot of failures. In fact, when the development teams used to develop any product, any applications, and when they are launching them and when they are pushing them to the operations, most of the time operations team was not able to manage them. And if the product is being introduced, after that, development team never used to look back. And operations team used to fight a lot in order to fix the issues by themselves, and somehow they used to survive. So in the end, who's getting suffered? So it was the customer, the end users. They were suffering a lot because of all these issues. So Patrick all of a sudden thought that let's try to come up with something that can fix all these issues. So he was assessing the entire value chain, starting from the development to the operations. Value chain includes multiple value streams. So he started assessing all of these. Now, in the effort of this, when he was doing all this, over a period of time, I mean, in the year 2008, there was Agile conference that was conducted by Andrew Clay Schaffer. Now, Andrew Clay Schaffer used to conduct these conferences because he was promoting Agile. Now, in this conference, you would really amuse to know, or you would be surprised to know, as I see, that there were only handful of people in that Agile conference. So Agile was introduced way back in 2001. Until 2008, 2009, there were very few people who used to attend the Agile conferences because they were not even bothered, and they were not even bothered to improvise their current way of working. So it underwent a lot of cultural change, huge cultural change. So even in that conference, there were hardly few people. Few of them were Andrew's friends, and Patrick DeBoy was also part of that particular conference. And there he thought that Andrew is also thinking on the same lines. And that's when they started meeting each other. They started thinking on the same lines. They came up with the new concept of development and operations. They said, let's try to bring them together. So they thought of launching a new concept, and they said, let's discuss that as a part of a conference. Let's do a conference. And they named that conference as Development and Operational Days. That's how the name Development and Operational Days was decided. So that was the first conference that they did in the year 2009 in Belgium, and that was the beginning of DevOps. So they used to call it as development and operational days, but over a period of time, it became only the development and operations, and then from there it became DevOps. That's how the name DevOps came into the picture. And that's why we say DevOps started in the year 2009. Then there were a lot of tools like Chef, Jenkins. These tools came into the picture, and over a period of time in 2013, a book, Phoenix Project, which was written by Jen Kim. It's a wonderful book. It tells you the 3 ways of implementing DevOps in a very simple language. So that book was introduced in the year 2013. And then there were a few more developments, and the journey is still going on. So this was the start of DevOps. Now, what exactly is DevOps? We talk about the development, we talk about the operations. Development team always has a goal that they should produce a product which should meet all the requirements of the customer. So when they launch any product, they also try to enhance that product. So they are producing more products, they are enhancing those products as well. So a lot of improvements are also being introduced. When development team is doing this, unknowingly or even knowingly, they're pushing a lot of changes to the operations. And for operations team, their goal, their objective is that they have to maintain the stability of operations. So with every change, there is instability that gets introduced in the environment. And this creates a lot of issues in the operation. As both the teams had different goals, they were not ready to collaborate with each other. Because for collaboration, you need common goals, shared goals. So here, both the teams were driving different goals. So when they are driving different goals, they're just cooperating. They are not collaborating. And that created that wall of confusion, wherein development team is pushing the change, and once that change is handed over to operations, they used to think, oh, my job is done. I will not look back. I have to work on other changes or new developments. For operations team, they are going to fix those issues. And even if they are knocking the wall or they want to get back to the development team, there was no interface. They could not go back. So they had to somehow manage the show. And that created a lot of pain for the operations. It's not a problem with the development. I mean, I'm not blaming the developers because they were given a goal to enhance the products and produce new products. Whereas operations team had to manage the operations. So both the teams were doing their best. But when they were doing their best, they're working in the silos. They are not even talking to each other. They are not even sharing that information with each other. And this created a lot of pain in the entire value chain. In the end, as I said, customers and users started suffering. Here, I would just give you an idea. I mean, at a very high level, I'll share one scenario with you. It happened with one of my customers. So in that particular environment, we had developers. Developers used to develop the code, commit the code to the central repository. Then from that central repository, it used to go for the build, the compilation, and then it was tested. It will go in the test environment. And then from test environment, it will be deployed in the pre-production or staging environment. It will be tested there. Then it will be deployed in the production environment. It will be tested and then released to the production. So this was the entire value chain. Now, when developers are developing the code, the first pain area was that they were using very old methods. Old methods, as in if they have to commit a code to the centralized repository, they could not do it simultaneously. They had to push it one by one in a sequence. And if one person has committed the code, then another person will do the check, compatibility check, and then push the code. And similarly, there were other guys who will do the same thing. Now, in case if the first guy has to enhance something in the code, the person will enhance it and then others will repeat the same stuff. So it was taking a lot of time to complete the entire development. And then it used to go for the compilation. Earlier in old days, it will go for the compilation only when development is done, I mean the build part. Otherwise, after that we started nightly builds. So at the end of the day, we will extract all the codes and then we will do the compilation of whatever codes have been committed. So nightly build started, and then slowly we started testing simultaneously. But when we used to do testing earlier, so we used to provide the estimation that when we will need the testing environment, testing resources. But when we are going for actual test resources were not available, test environments were not available. Now in those scenarios, how are we going to tackle that particular scenario? I mean, there's a wait period. It's uncontrollable for you. So on an average, we had a wait period of around 5 days. If I still remember those numbers correctly, there were 5 days of the wait period. Then testing resources will be available, and then they will do the testing. Now, as they were not involved from the day one, they will come up with some standard test scenarios which they are going to do the testing with. And if there are any defects, they will pass it back to the development team. Now, development team has already moved on to another development. So when they see that there are some defects, they come back. So there was another wait period that got introduced, and then they will fix it, again push it to the testing. From there, it goes in the staging. Now, our main problem was the deployment. So we used to do the deployments using different infrastructure teams. I mean, they used to do the deployments or the deployments even in the production environment, creating that environment. Now they were taking a lot of time. Just to give you an example, even if we had to do the deployment, we had to create the VMs, virtual machines. We were taking around 35 to 40 minutes manually when we were doing it manual creation of those, or manually typing everything, all the commands, building those things. So it was taking a lot of time. And whenever we were pushing those changes, every time there was a business outage that used to get introduced. So in operations, we had around 30 plus business outages in 1 year. It was a huge loss for the business. These were the pain areas, and all of a sudden our CIO says that now if we continue to operate in this way, we will go bankrupt within no time. So CIO gave us a new target. He said we have to reduce these outages and we have to release faster. Our release time, even if we had to release, we were doing a release after 4 months to 6 months time. I mean, even if we are working on some small change in the application functionality, we would not take less than 45 days, which was huge time. And whenever we are making any changes, we are pushing any changes, most of the time my service desk team is clueless that there are any changes that are being pushed. This was the height of silos. And the operations team used to struggle. If there are any incidents, they have to struggle to manage those incidents. They cannot go back to the development team because they don't even know them. They don't even have an interface there. Now, these were those pain areas and how to handle these areas. So we started with very small changes. We started with our DevOps journey. When we started, we actually didn't know that it is DevOps. So we started with where it hurts the most, the operations. So we said, let's try to reduce those outages, or before that, let's try to come up with some good recovery times. As we are taking a lot of time, service desk is clueless. Let's try to fix these areas first. So we created a handshake between the development and the operations team. Now, as developers are going to mark the changes for deployment, before they could do that in the tool, we added a control in the tool itself. They could not mark that change, deployment, that code for the deployment or that application for the deployment till the time they check a box which says, have you trained service desk? Now, the training for the service desk and as well as the training for the infrastructure team, whichever team is responsible to support that level 2 support that comes from whichever team, whether they know what kind of change is coming and are they equipped with the tools, with the knowledge, with the capability to support those changes. So we added this control. With the help of this, now our recovery was faster. I'm not saying that our outages were removed, our recovery was faster. Now we started handling those changes quite well, and even if there were incidents, we were able to recover. So change failure was still there, but incidents were handled better. Now we said, what next? Let's try to reduce these incidents now, reduce the outages because of those particular changes, reduce the failures because of those changes. So then we said, now we have to create a handshake the other way. I mean, first we created a handshake from left to right, that means from development to operations. Now let's create a feedback from right to left. And that is when we started providing a feedback from the operations to the development team. How to do that? We started involving the development team into our weekly connects. We used to do some problem management reviews on every Fridays. That is when we used to conduct a lot of CTI workshops. CTI workshop, in those days we were using Remedy. So CTI, category, type and item, that's how we used to do the categorization of the incidents. So we used to review what are those new categories of incidents have been identified, because there was an others category, and whenever that others is being marked, we used to review what is that others. Do we need to add any further CTI combinations? So we started involving development team into that as well in those workshops, because at the end of those workshops, we would highlight all the incidents that were related to the applications. And we used to ask the development team to take this information, I mean the spokes from that team, to take this information, go back to the team, do a kind of review and tell us what can be done here. Can we reduce them? Can we remove or eliminate those outages or those incidents? Or can we have better recovery? Can we have better solution? Can we have better SOPs, standard operating procedures, or some knowledge articles developed by the application team which can help the operations team? So that's how we started this particular connect. Now this was weekly connect. After this, we also gave access to the KEDB of operations to our development team. So that development team can often check which are our known errors that are related to the applications and are they correct. And they would also come to know what are the application issues that are occurring in the operations. That's how we started creating that connect between the operations, between the development team. So in the beginning, yes, we had to make a lot of effort to connect these guys, and they were not participating in those meetings. We had to keep a check. We had to go to both the teams. So in fact, our leaders were making a lot of efforts there. But after a time, after a period of time, after using a lot of different techniques, we could create that collaborative environment. Now, this was just the beginning. After this, what did we do? We implemented Agile. Now, I mean, as we have limited period, I cannot tell you that how did we implement Agile, but yes, it was Agile journey because we conducted trainings, we changed the mindset. So we started working in the Agile way. We introduced Agile and we trained people on Agile so that now we created one single team. We had the role of a service master, which is equivalent to product owner. We had a role of process master, which is equivalent to scrum master. And we created the development team or the DevOps team. So when we say DevOps team, so it was one team that included the developers, the testers, the QA, the BA, and the operations POC. We also introduced a role of SRE, Site Reliability Engineer. And using this team, we created that environment where our operations team was always present when development team is making any decision. When they are planning for every sprint, our operations guys are always there to provide them more insight on operational requirements or provisioning the infrastructure. They used to do that. In fact, that helped in the better estimation, that helped in better planning, that reduced a lot of failures. And this SRE role was pivotal. In fact, this SRE role helped us implement DevOps in such a way that whenever there are applications being implemented, if there are any issues, this SRE would get hold of the people or would have the development team on the standby to fix those particular incidents permanently when those applications are getting deployed. So our development team was still there when those applications have been implemented for quite some time. So we extended our development in the operations. And that's how we could fix those incidents quite fast. And that too permanently. And this was our win. So this was just the beginning. This is still not complete DevOps. Complete DevOps, I mean, you cannot say that we are done with the DevOps within 4 months, within 6 months. No, we took almost around 4 years to complete our DevOps journey. In fact, later we came up with automations. We reduced the testing cycle time. We reduced the development cycle time. We reduced the deployment cycle time. We came up with the tools. We introduced tools. We introduced tools like GitHub in the development areas. We introduced tools like Jenkins for continuous integration. So GitHub, where developers started committing their code simultaneously, which reduced a lot of wait period, where earlier they were committing it one by one. Now they are able to commit the codes simultaneously. And then those codes were extracted by the Jenkins. Jenkins provides the continuous integration server. And then from Jenkins, Maven was integrated with Jenkins, where Maven will compile the codes and will do that build. Build server comes from Maven. These are just few of the examples of the tools. There are more than 100 tools for DevOps for each of these areas.
Vikas,
And then, yeah.
there's a question from Arit. He asks difference between SRE engineer and a DevOps engineer.
Yes. So there is a simple difference. See, when you talk about the DevOps engineer, this role is created by the market. So what is this role? What do we expect from this role? We expect that this particular role should have the knowledge of entire DevOps pipeline. I mean CI/CD pipeline. What is the CI/CD pipeline? I was just explaining all these stages, and then I was about to say what is our entire deployment pipeline. So you call it as continuous integration and continuous delivery pipeline, CI/CD. Now in that CI/CD pipeline, the tool set that I was talking about, like GitHub, you can use Bitbucket. There are multiple tools. For integration, you have the tools. For build, you have the tools. For testing, you have the tools like Selenium. You have the tools for deployment like Chef, Puppet, Ansible. You have tools for monitoring it in operations like Kibana. So entire deployment pipeline, DevOps engineers should be aware of all these tools. That person should have a good experience in the entire tools architecture, would help you automate these tools. So this is a role of DevOps engineer. When we talk about SRE, site reliability engineer, now this person should have a knowledge about the development, about the testing. Mainly that person should have good testing background. That person should know about the service management as well, because SRE is a connect between the development, a bridge between the development and the operations. SRE is going to define the SLOs, service level objectives, and the error budgets. SRE is going to see whether that error budget is being exceeded, whether you are breaching your SLOs, if you are doing this, implementing the error budget policies. And then also is going to, if SRE role is empowered in the organization, which should be done by the leadership team, then that SRE can also decide to stop certain changes which are not needed, because SRE has to maintain the reliability. In order to meet the SLA, those SLOs are very specifically defined by keeping a buffer between the SLA and SLO, and that entire credit goes to SRE. So SRE has a huge role to play here, whereas DevOps engineer is more focused on the tools pipeline or tools chain in the CI/CD pipeline. I hope I answered that question. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have same question by two people. I think trying to say that they understand what development is, but they're not very clear as to what operations is.
Okay. When we say operations, see, you have this development. Let's say you're talking about two different teams or two activities done by different teams. Like there is a team that does the application development and there is a team that does the application support. Yeah. But apart from application support, we have infrastructure support as well. So we have the teams who are managing different servers, who are managing the connectivity. So like you have networks, you have database teams, you have storage teams. So all these teams are part of your operations, where they are managing day-to-day operations for those particular services. Whereas the development team helps in building those applications. Apart from the applications, daily operational services are managed by the infrastructure team. So there are lot many issues that may arise in day-to-day operations. Those issues would be handled by the operations team, and they can be referred to as incidents. They also fulfill the service requests. They also handle the problems. When I say the problems, these are the causes behind those incidents. Then we talk about overall change management. That means controlling the changes while implementing them in the operations. So there are not, I mean, when you look at the changes, there are some changes that come from the development team, but there would be some changes that come from the operations as well. So like you do the patching, upgrading of certain servers, that is operational change. So you have a lot of operational changes as well, and they will be managed and controlled by the operations team. So you have a lot of tasks that are being done for managing these services by the operations team, infrastructure team, support teams. I hope I answered that question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Guys,
Aditya, can we take questions in last 15 minutes so that
Yeah,
I
sure.
complete my, yep.
Exactly, that was what I was going to say. We have other questions also coming in. So, guys, we will start taking the questions once he's done with the entire training. You can put your questions in the chat box, and I'll make sure that each and every question of yours get addressed.
Yeah. So I'll go back to that entire pipeline that I was explaining. So we started using different tools, and that, I mean, as I said, that is our tool chain. So we have different stages in DevOps. You have the development stage, which we say continuous development. You have the continuous integration stage. You have the continuous build stage. You have the continuous testing stage. You have the continuous delivery or continuous deployment. They are one and the same. I mean, you have either continuous delivery or continuous deployment, and you have continuous monitoring. So you have these 6 stages. So you have continuous development, you have continuous integration, you have continuous build. So usually we consider build under integration, but there are 2 different things. So you can consider it to be one stage. If you consider it as one stage, there are only 5 stages. So you have continuous development, continuous integration, continuous testing, and then you have the continuous delivery or deployment, and you have the continuous monitoring. These are different stages of DevOps. So when we say a DevOps is only possible when you connect the bridge between, or you create a bridge between the development and the operations team. And when you ensure that both the teams are working together, that means the representatives from both the teams are working together. And it needs a lot of trust. It needs that collaboration. Without that, you cannot even think about DevOps. And to create that collaboration, to create those, create that trust, and to create that interface between them, we highly depend on the tools, because tools are going to give us the speed. So as I discussed about the tool chain, that tool chain gives us more speed. Now in that case, I'll just tell you, after the DevOps journey was completed, earlier we were releasing in 4 months. Now we started releasing in every 15 days. So twice per month. Number of outages earlier were 30 plus business outages in a year, and then we came down to 2 business outages in a year. So it was huge reduction in the outages. Customer was more happy, employees were more happy, because the way we started working, that changed the entire environment. Team was not working on toil at all. Toil, anything that can be automated, anything that's manual, anything that's burning my employees, burning my team members, where they are doing the repetitive work instead of experimenting new things, instead of innovating. So I reduced the burn rate of my employees, and they were happy. So these are the benefits of DevOps. So if I have to say, what is DevOps? DevOps is a collaboration, culture of collaboration between the development and the operations. And how is it possible? Through automation, through the uses of technology. And why do we need it? To increase the speed, to increase the rate of changes and success of changes. That means more stability of operations. So this is DevOps. When we talk about the definition of DevOps, guys, we don't have any fixed definition of DevOps. So what is DevOps? DevOps is a thought process, shifting from silos to unity, change in the mindset, building a blame-free culture, and this is overall a theory supported by processes and tools. In fact, when we talk about what is DevOps, as I said, there is no one single definition of DevOps. So I'm going to show you the most commonly used definition that we have around DevOps. Now, why there is no single definition? Because DevOps doesn't have single BOK, body of knowledge. It has a collective body of knowledge. When I say collective, you can also call it as distributed body of knowledge, because there are different books that are being written on the DevOps. You have Phoenix Project, you have DevOps Enterprise. So there are multiple books that are being written and they define DevOps differently. And there are different webinars that are being conducted, different conferences that are being conducted. So that entire knowledge is collective. And that's why there are a lot of definitions of DevOps. But the most common and most appropriate revolves around this diagram. You can remember it. It is convergence, collaboration, and integration between the development and the operations. So here we go. The definition of DevOps, a culture and a professional shift that emphasizes on convergence, collaboration, integration between the software development and operations professionals while automating the processes of software delivering and infrastructure changes. Now, what is DevOps? We already understood. Prior to DevOps, there were two different teams. So they defined their boundaries. So development team used to work on the designing, build and testing part, whereas the operations team would work on setting up the release and deployment. Now DevOps team, it works together. The single team will work till the time entire deployment is done and feedback is achieved or feedback is seeked. That means you have taken the feedback. It gives you fast, automated single team, which has a higher success rate. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions in the market. So what DevOps is not, I'll just take some time to explain this. So DevOps is not a new tool or a framework. Many organizations or many people have this mindset that we will implement all the tools of the DevOps, that entire tool chain for a CI/CD pipeline, and that tool chain is our DevOps. I mean, we have implemented DevOps, we have implemented the tool chain, we have implemented DevOps. That's not right, not correct. DevOps is more than a tool. It's that culture you have to create. It's a behavior that you have to have in place. It's not a product or a service to purchase. So you cannot buy DevOps. You have to create that environment for DevOps. It's not an organizational unit. Oh wow. This point, there are a lot of arguments on this point. See, many people say we have DevOps practice, we have DevOps team being created. So as I said, this DevOps team or DevOps engineer as a role that is being created is around the tools, the tool chain, the person who knows DevOps tool. But if we look at it practically, can you have a person who's very good with the development and very good with the operation, with the service management? You will have either one of them, or a person who has a bit of knowledge on the development and a bit of knowledge on the operations, I mean the service management. So it's very difficult to call it as an organizational unit. Now the practice, DevOps practice being created or DevOps team being created, as I said, revolves more around the tool set, the automation. Then it's not about the tools and technology only, which we just discussed. And it's not one size that fits all. It's not going to fix all the issues. For different scenarios, you will have to look at different aspects. Now, DevOps will only be implemented or will only be successful if you have the development in scope as well as the operations. That means the service management for those applications. Otherwise, you will have the benefits, but it will be partial benefit. It's not about simply combining the development and the operations team. It's more than that, as we discussed. So these are few of the misconceptions or what DevOps is not. Now, as we discuss what DevOps is, from that, these are the goals. We say DevOps goals are working on smaller and more frequent releases. We are talking about reduced efforts and risk, reduced cost of product iterations and delays, a culture of communication and collaboration, consistency and speed through automation. Now, the story that I discussed about that particular customer, we discussed all these were the benefits. I mean, all these are actually the goals of DevOps. There are 5 values that are driven by the DevOps. If we want to make DevOps successful, we have to work on these 5 values. Like we have 4 values for Agile, we have 7 guiding principles for ITL4. So similarly, we have these values, 4 values for scaled Agile framework as well. So we have these 5 values for DevOps. We call it as CALMS, CALMS. C is for culture, culture of collaboration. As we discussed DevOps, we have to increase the speed. We have to do a lot of automation, reduce the human intervention, reduce the error rate through automation. So automation is one of the value. Another is lean. Lean is reducing the waste. Throughout your value stream, you have to see how many value streams do we have. In that value stream, what is the value added time? What is NVA, non-value added time? And you're going to reduce the non-value added time to get that speed, to reduce the wastage and maximize that value. That is lean. And the biggest challenge nowadays in the market is defining those measurements for DevOps, how to measure DevOps. So you have to have those measurements being defined. Your balance scorecard or your CIO scorecards should also include these metrics which are related to DevOps. We are talking about sharing, so knowledge sharing culture or continuous learning culture, which comes from sharing the knowledge. So these are 5 values. If you want to make DevOps successful, you have to implement these values in the organization. In fact, for DevOps, we have these 4 pillars. These are going to make your DevOps effective. There has to be collaboration. So when we are talking about collaboration, we are targeting a specific outcome through supporting interactions between multiple people. Affinity, defining those shared organizational goals. We are talking about the tools. As we said, without tools, without technology, it is impossible to implement DevOps. So tools, an accelerator and cost saver, but must fit with working methods of DevOps. Then scaling. So how DevOps can be applied in different organizations as they grow, mature, and even shrink. So these are 4 pillars for effective DevOps. Why DevOps? We discussed these benefits with the help of that case study. So in fact, we are talking about speedier solutions. We are talking about enhanced performance. We are talking about improved efficiency, improved productivity, continuous improvement, better customer improvement, reduced failures and errors, and higher return on investment. So that's why most of the organizations are implementing DevOps. Now, what is driving DevOps? This comes from Amazon. Amazon claims that they take 11.6 seconds, which is their mean time between deployments. That means once that code is when it is ready, it takes only 11.6 seconds to get deployed in the production. It was long back. Now they're claiming around 6 seconds. They take hardly 6 seconds. They have automated everything. It's only that developers have to commit their code to the source repository, and then everything is automated. Even the deployments are automated. It gets deployed so fast. So they are saying maximum number of deployments in a single hour in 60 minutes is around 1079. Mean number of hosts that simultaneously receiving a deployment, mean was 10,000, maximum number was 30,000. Now who's doing DevOps? These are few of the pioneers. So you have web, you have financials, you have entertainment, you have academia, you have insurance, manufacturing, retailers. So these are big names in the industry, and they have all implemented DevOps, and they are getting the benefits from DevOps. So guys, this was about the DevOps. Now, before I just open the room for questions about Novelvista. So we are into the training since 10 years. We are globally training multiple professionals. We have trained more than more than 1 lakh participants. I was about to say we have more than 500 plus corporate trainers. We are 100 plus corporates globally. So it's a team of 50 plus dedicated SMEs across sales, pre-sales, digital marketing, and product management. Our CSAT on the scale of 5 is 4.8, NPS is 85. Now, this is what we are. In fact, our association is with multiple big brands. We are associated with Exin. We conduct trainings for a lot of courses from Exin, DevOps Institute, DOI, PeopleCert, GSDC, Exilos. Then we are talking about VariSM that comes from Exin and Scopism. We are talking about Scrum Alliance, Scrum Org. We are partners with Microsoft. And these are our clients. So we've been training big names. We've been training Maersk, Allscripts into every domain. We've been training people, or we've been training a lot of the service providers as Accenture, TCS, Cognizant, Atos, Zensar, CG, PwC, everyone that is listed here. Now I open the room for questions. Yeah, Aditya, I think we still have 15 minutes.
Yeah, we have quite a few questions. We'll start with a question from Sandor. He asks, what are the main fundamentals needs to know of getting started to work as a DevOps engineer? He has Linux background.
He has?
Linux background.
Linux, okay. See, mainly if you talk about the DevOps engineer, as I said, you should be aware of the DevOps tool chain. So there are multiple tools that are available in the DevOps tool chain. You have Jenkins, few tools that I named earlier, but it's not only limited to those names. There are around 120 odd tools that are available. In fact, I'll share a snapshot. It's part of my training where I discuss about all the tools that are available in the DevOps. Now, if you have to be a DevOps engineer, you should have a thorough knowledge on those tools, because you would be asked to implement those tools in the CI/CD pipeline, and you have to automate those tools. You have to connect those tools via APIs. So it's all about those tools, their automation, their integration that you need to look at for being a DevOps engineer. Yeah. And knowledge of DevOps, obviously. What is the CI/CD pipeline? Yeah.
Hope that answered your question, Sandor. Any further questions, you can put it in the chat. The next question, this is a question that I think people need more information about. People are not quite aware of what is CI/CD. So, Vikas, if you can give them a brief idea.
Yes. So as I said, CI/CD. So there are different stages in the DevOps, as we discussed: continuous development. Then I said continuous integration. CI stands for that continuous integration. And then we talk about the continuous testing. Then comes continuous delivery or deployment. Continuous delivery is where we do the deployments. Our code is being deployed in the staging, pre-production environment. And we have to, after that, we take the feedback, we do the testing, we take a feedback, and then we decide what goes in the production and what goes in any other environment. So that is mainly the delivery, continuous delivery. Whereas continuous deployment is, by default, everything that is tested or automatically, there's a push button deployment, automated deployment. For everything that gets tested, gets pushed into the operations, into the production. That is delivery. CD is delivery, continuous delivery or continuous deployment. Deployment is automated deployment, automatically getting released in the production. So CI is continuous integration. CD is that continuous delivery by default. But for Amazon, as I said, they have continuous deployment instead of continuous delivery, which is considered as a higher stage than delivery. So this is that CI/CD pipeline. It talks about those stages of the DevOps. the deployment pipeline. That deployment pipeline is referred to as CI/CD pipeline. Yeah. I hope I answered that question.
Clinton and John, I hope that was the answer you were looking for. Okay, so the next question is, just give me a moment.
Sure.
What does a role BA play his role here? What does a BA do? I think is what the question is. Or whose responsibility is to establishing a collaboration between DevOps and Ops team?
Okay. Whose responsibility is to develop that relationship or create that collaborative relationship? See, there are multiple people who are going to create that collaboration. It can also be created by the SRE. You can give that role to SRE. Otherwise, you have that entire accountability to the leadership team. As you said, responsibility, there is a role of a process master within DevOps. That process master is a facilitator. The process master can help DevOps evangelists, DevOps practitioners, DevOps coaches. They can also help you in those areas. Yeah.
Okay, another question from John. I think this is a question that needs more elaboration. DevOps, is it technically is it a properly a course or a role which is technical in its form?
Yeah. So when we talk about DevOps, yes, DevOps as a DevOps practitioner or as a DevOps consultant, see, you should first be aware of the DevOps concepts. Your concepts should be clear. Your concept of what is the CI/CD pipeline, how does it work, how do we implement DevOps in the organization. So DevOps implementation is not only about the tools. You will have the tools architects, you will have the DevOps engineer in the team who will help you implement those tools. But when you are implementing those concepts, you should be clear with them. So yes, when we come to the training part of DevOps, we have in Novelvista, we have created two separate training streams here. One is we train on the concepts where there are certifications that are available from DOI, GSDC, Exim, which talks about those concepts. And you also have a training on the hands-on onto those particular tools. So we provide training on that as well. So you should be aware of the concepts. That is important. And then you have people with you who are good with the tools. They can help you implement those tools. As a practitioner, you are not going to do the implementation of tools. Yeah.
Okay, next question comes from Fernando. What is the role of a DevOps engineer in a company that already has a DevOps culture and the CI/CD tools implemented?
So there, it's more of if there are any issues with those tools, we need a support for those particular tools as well. Or maybe if there are new amendments to those tools, sometimes you have in the market, there are some new automations that are being done in those tools. So even if it's being implemented, you need that regular maintenance, regular upgradation, improvement, enhancement. So DevOps engineer are going to work mainly on those areas.
Okay, the next question. All right, this question has come in repeatedly. Arit, yes, we'll be sharing, guys, we'll be sharing the presentation slides with you individually through emails, and a demo for this, I'll get to that when Vikas is done with this session. A demo on CI/CD pipelines and a practical hands-on, I'll get to that. Okay, another question comes in from Srinivasan. He asks, what is the difference between DevOps and SysOps?
Okay. See, DevOps, as I told you, we are talking about mainly the overall development. The entire CI/CD pipeline. Now, SysOps will not include the CI/CD pipeline. It is mainly talking about how do you manage those systems, the operations of those systems, not about CI/CD.
Okay, Clinton asks, can you provide a brief but more concrete example of before and after DevOps was used? That is, how were things done before DevOps and how was it done after?
Okay, I think I shared the case study at a glance, right? Where we discuss what DevOps, I mean, what were the things before the DevOps and what were the things after DevOps. Mainly, when we talk about before DevOps, we had a lot of operational issues. I'll just repeat what we discussed. So we had a lot of outages in the operations, a lot of change failures in the operations. We were taking long times to push changes to the operations, and changes, when they are pushed, most of the time operation team is unaware of those changes. Our incident resolution times, fixing those incidents, were taking a lot of time. Our knowledge articles about those issues related to applications were not that developed, were not that enhanced. So these were all pain areas, and that entire scenario was impacting us badly in front of the customer. Our revenues were getting impacted. Our cost of ownership was very high. Now, when we got DevOps into the picture, what we did, we reduced the outages, we released much faster. Our time to market was much faster because we were more agile and we were more lean. And we reduced the toil. You can claim it to be implementation of lean concepts, and that's how we could get rid of the toil through automation, through that CI/CD pipeline. So we were able to produce faster. We were able to generate more revenue in lesser time and with less effort. So our main purpose was not to reduce team members, because we created multiple CI/CD pipelines for different applications. So our team members were utilized, and in fact they were happy because they had, I mean, they were not working on the repetitive task. They were learning new things. We did that upskilling. So this is how it changes the entire organization. Your organization is more lively now, more fast, yeah, more reliable.
Okay, a follow-up question to that. Why need DevOps if you have Agile? Will Agile
Oh,
not
yes.
exist?
So it's a very good question. Why we need DevOps when we have Agile? See, DevOps and Agile, while implementing DevOps, you are going to be Agile, but when you say that we are Agile, you don't talk about the entire CI/CD pipeline. I mean, you don't talk about the tools chain. Tools are not covered in Agile. Agile Scrum, yes, you are working on the deployment pipeline, but what are those tools? What is continuous integration, continuous deployment? That continuous word, as we discussed those 5 stages, they are not discussed in Agile. Agile, for implementing Agile Scrum, there are different ways. You have to follow those Scrum rituals, those ceremonies, and you have to create the Agile teams. You can be Agile in that way. In fact, when we are implementing SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework, in any organization, we are implementing DevOps. Our CI/CD pipeline is being implemented as a part of SAFe as well. So DevOps and SAFe go hand in hand, but not Agile and DevOps. They are two different things. Yeah, but DevOps is one way of being Agile. I hope I didn't confuse you.
Okay, I hope you got your answer, John. Guys, if anybody else has, okay, we got a question. With the advent of microservices and Agile, multiple teams tend to have have multiple development. It will be a nightmare. Okay, so I think he was adding on to your question, onto your answer.
Okay.
Gopinath Alakrishnan. Okay, yeah, guys, if anybody else has a question, please, you can just put it in the chat box. We are almost done with the Q&A. We have a few minutes left. Okay, I think more or less everybody has finished with their questions. All right, Vikas, do you have anything to sum up or any last words?
Yep. Yeah. So team, it was really nice to share my knowledge with you guys. I hope I could answer your queries. And in case you have any further queries, you can reach out to Aditya. And in fact, we were supposed to share the CI/CD pipeline today, but somehow we are not able to do it. We'll do it in the next bootcamp, or Aditya would schedule or make it a point that it comes to you. we share it with you, how that CI/CD pipeline works. It's more technical in nature. So people who are willing to go for that CI/CD pipeline, please get in touch with Aditya, because there we demonstrate how that CI/CD pipeline works. So how it looks in the Jenkins and what are those other tools? How do we create those instances and all? Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. I don't know whether or not you'd be able to take this question because it's coming from Clinton. He asks, it's still a little unclear to me how DevOps applies. Can you make up an example where a game company decides to develop a new world for players to explore? If it's not too much hassle.
I think now it's getting on to solutioning part. Maybe we can take it offline, or maybe in the training I'll cover that.
Yeah, great. Guys, probably we could connect for a one-on-one session or something like that, wherein you can have more questions or anything that you need. I just have a couple of things that I would like to share with you, to all our participants still with us. The first thing, so this is a pure knowledge sharing event. We try to conduct these boot camps once a month or twice a month to connect with you guys, to connect and explore the opportunities that you might be looking for. It's paramount to us that we get a feedback from you, what we did right and what we did wrong. What changes do we need to make in the future? So I would be sharing feedback form with you, all of you, through your emails, and I would highly appreciate if you can just let me know or let us know what we did right or wrong. That's the first thing. Second thing, guys, we have a batch for DevOps practitioner course coming up on the 16th of March. In this batch, or in this course, we'll be covering up not one, but 3 courses, which will be DevOps practitioner, Agile and Scrum Master, and Agile and Scrum Product Owner. All of these 3 courses will come at the cost of 1. We have a participant raising his hand. Vikas, can you just check? I'm unable to see it. We have a
Okay.
question from a
Just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
comes.
so as I was saying, we're having these courses, we're having these 3 courses lined up, and the other 2 courses, which is Agile and Scrum Master, ASM and ASPO, are absolutely complementary to DevOps practitioner course. So if any one of you would like to nominate or get more details, or just have a conversation wherein you would like to know more about it, I would definitely be okay. So the price for this training would be $350, 350 US dollars. This will include the certification vouchers for all the 3 trainings. We will be making sure that you clear your exams. It's almost like a passing guarantee that we'll be giving you. If we do not deliver on the quality, it's 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked. You can, before taking the certification exam, if you're not happy with the quality of the training, we'll refund your money absolutely. We take pride in the way we do things and the training quality that we deliver. So I will once again put my email address. Yes, John, that is right. For all those 3, we'll be providing the total cost of 350 US dollars. I'll be putting my email address in the chat box, so you guys can drop me an email. And if you're interested, if you feel that this is the right thing for you, I will make sure that I connect with you. We have a one-on-one discussion call, and wherever we can take it from there. Yeah, because I thought there was a hand raised, right?
Yeah, that was Sanender, but now I could not see him. Yeah, Sanender. Yeah.
Hi there.
Yeah, I can hear you. Could you be louder?
Yeah, hi there. I was just asking that can you explain something about the tools used? Are they command line or we have to experience those tools?
Sorry, can you again repeat that? Or Aditya, could you hear him? If you have heard him, can you repeat his question?
I can't. Surinder, can you just put it in the chat box so that we can connect? And guys,
Actually, I'm unable to type in there, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, can you repeat it? I'll try and listen to what you're saying.
Yeah, I was asking that is there a need for tools to understand the basic requirement and hands-on experience on the tools, or the tools are command based and we have to do the technical knowledge?
See, when you talk about the tools, yeah, it is needed to know the tools. Being a DevOps practitioner, being a DevOps a coach, or being a DevOps evangelist, you should be aware of the tools. But you cannot know all the tools. So there are a few famous tools that you should be aware of. It's good to have knowledge, but yeah, it's not a showstopper that in case you don't have all the tools knowledge, you cannot be a DevOps engineer, or sorry, not the engineer, but you cannot go for the DevOps certification. Yeah, it's not a showstopper. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Um,
Thanks a lot.
Thank
okay.
you.
Guys, I see very few of you are remaining now. There was a constant question coming up about CI/CD pipeline and hands-on experience. Yes, we will be. We did this in our last bootcamp as well for the DevOps. This session was conducted by Mr. Rati. He was showing the practical hands-on experience of what you're supposed to do using those tools. So yes, due to some unfortunate reasons, he couldn't attend the meeting today. But yes, I'll be sharing an email with you wherein you can give me a poll. I'll be sharing a poll with you. You can give me your answers whether or not you'd like to attend that. And accordingly, we can conduct a session, let's say next week, weekend, whenever you guys are free, and we can conduct that session. So yeah, that was about CI/CD pipeline. Apart from that, we had conducted the CI/CD pipeline before as well. So it was there on our YouTube channel. I'll share the link with you. Just give me one moment. Yeah. So the second half of the video contains the CI/CD pipeline being explained by Mr. Rathi. You can check it out. The reason why we conduct these boot camps of similar nature on a regular basis is because it gets us to engage with you. So if you like to have, like, once you're watching that, and if you have any questions, we can conduct the CI/CD pipeline hands-on experience again in our next boot camp, and you can ask your questions over there. Yeah, so I think that's about it from my end. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for attending this boot camp. I hope there was something for everyone over there to learn. Because you have anything else?
No, so thanks everyone, and hope to see you guys soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you, team. Bye bye. Take care.